Yes. Hello, and welcome to the Masterclass. I am Dr. Sue Morter, and you probably know that, or you wouldn't be watching this, but it might be one of the first times that you're viewing this, and it is the Masterclass this evening instead of the short answer that we're going straight into. Yes, so you might have thought that you were dialing into the short answer, but we have a surprise for you this evening, and that is we're going to go in a full Masterclass for everyone that visits our website. So just hit me today that's what we're going to do. So here we are. And what we do in the Masterclass, it might be your first time viewing, you might not be aware of the fact that we ask a bunch of different questions and we don't answer them. Well, we do answer them, but we don't answer them one at a time. We put them all together, kind of up here, and then we come through and answer them all simultaneously in a conversation, weaving them together. And the reason for that is that we want people to understand that while we think we have our own individual questions, all questions are really leading to a few simple integrative answers. There are a few simple basic principles that when we can start to see them in action, we can start to implement them and employ them in our own lives. And so we can actually start to interpret life from that perspective without having to come up with what feels to be a question in the in-between moments. So what gets to end up happening is we start living in a flow of an answer. So what we've been doing here in Indianapolis, we're in the midst of our Level 3 program. And when we are doing that, we're at the house. So welcome to my house. I guess you can't really see anything. There's a poster board and another poster. But we are here in our sacred space where we get to dive into some rich, deep conversations. And we're talking about the integration of the chakra system with our electromagnetic energy system, with our central nervous system, and operating at a place that exists, a version of ourselves that exists beyond space and time. So it exists beyond our limiting beliefs. And the beauty of that conversation is that it takes us into a place where we're recognizing that when we change our beliefs, for the sake of changing our beliefs to change our actions, to change our outcomes in life, we are refining our mind, and that is a beautiful thing. And there is a strong invitation inside the Energy Codes coursework to take it much further than that. I'm really interested in us actually unattaching from the belief-making machine that we are when we're identified as the mental body, where the mind is just kind of stuck on us. And it has all of its opinions, it has all of its ideas, it has all of its perspectives of how things should be, the way things should go, how people should operate, and how they should treat us, etc. And it's quite painful because people rarely operate that way. They rarely show up the way we want them to in order to keep us happy. No matter how hard we try to teach them what they need to do to make sure that I'm happy, they don't seem to do it for some reason. And so the reason is because we asked them never to at the soulful contract level called the bus stop conversation, which is something that we engage in the coursework. Basically what we're saying is, I want to come into this life and have an awakening opportunity through the experiences that I have and the challenges that I come up against, the resistances, the pressures, the friction that I experience. I want to use those experiences to really come to know who I am, to realize that I am more than what meets the eye, to realize one day that I am not at the effect of how you treat me, that you treat me a certain way and I get to have the experience that I choose. And once we get into that realization, we're well on our way to stepping into what I reference as a quantum flip to the front side of the model, which means we have the energy, the vitality, and the resources and the clarity, and we build the skill set and the neurocircuitry to support it to actually think as creator, so that I'm not just dodging the negative attitudes or the challenging circumstances or the frightening dispositions of people. I'm not just learning to sidestep and to get okay no matter what you say or do. Instead, I'm actually using my energy and my resources to bring into this world the creative impulse that I am, to lead my way of dreaming and seeing, envisioning the world to be, leading it into existence. Having the wherewithal comes first by having courage, but then ultimately as I generate that enough power inside the body through the techniques that we learn to generate the capacity to pierce the veils and get up here beyond the primitive brain and into these high brain centers, I have the capacity to operate in alpha thinking, meaning I'm having original thought. I'm generating the original ideas. I'm not just weaving in and out, dodging left and right, trying to get by. It's not enough to just survive. We are here to even more than prevail. We are here to reveal the truth of who we are. And at first, when we're stuck here, it takes great courage to recognize that I might not be interested in doing what would keep me safe, because while it keeps me safe, it also keeps this thing on my face, and I'm not really digging that. All right? So I'd like to find a way to get that off of me and to keep it off of me. And then I'd like to find something better to do with that than what I was doing with it before. The issue is this: we are identified as the mind. So we believe our beliefs, and we think they're true. You know, there's really nothing wrong with beliefs. The only problem is when we believe them. Right? That's the only challenge with beliefs. So this crowd, they're sitting here and they're trying to behave, but they're not really. Don't let them fool you. They are so on their best behavior right now. And just a few minutes ago, they were like, "Are you kidding me?" Rowdy. So they're a little camera shy, and you're not even on the camera. Okay. So I understand. It's okay. I got it. So what we're doing is we're learning to cultivate joy. We're learning that it can be easy. We're learning to take the risk to allow it to be easy. So often we want to clamp down and make it go the way we've had experiences go before. And when we do that, it's familiar even though it's miserable. It's predictable even though we end up totally unhappy and hurt and disillusioned and living a life that is more contained than it really is supposed to be. And so we want to shift that for ourselves. We want to shift that in the world. And we do so first within this system and then in our intimate relationships, left and right, friendships, maybe some family dynamics will shift. But the invitation is this: find some places where it's easy for you to be you. Find a place, a person, a circumstance where it's easy to be you. And then, while you're being you, notice how you're being on the inside. Notice what it's feeling like when you're dissolving walls right in this very moment. You know, if you're in a challenging circumstance and you're in that challenging circumstance with a trusted relationship, you can look at each other and say, whoa, this is rocky. Wow, uncomfortable. You know, wow, this is an amazing moment here. Let's do something with this and turn it into something else. And we can do that. What I'd love for you to do when you're in that kind of a situation next is take it to the body. Look into the body. One eye on the inside is what I call it in the coursework. Take your attention to the body and notice, how am I oriented in here? How am I oriented? What's my disposition? Am I hunkered down and ready? Am I in preparation for someone to do or say something that I'm gonna have to come up with an answer? Am I uncomfortable here? What am I doing in the physiology that will give me feedback to recognize what's happening, how I'm processing information? If I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm melting a disposition, melting an illusion, heading an argument off at the pass because I'm willing to lean in, to open it up for discussion, for conversation, if I'm willing to be patient or to be clear or to stay in my core instead of popping out to the protective personality, either way, notice what you're feeling in the body. Maybe it's a chakra activation, which we talk about in the coursework, of course. Maybe it's even a way that you focus your mind. Or maybe it's a way that you even focus your eyes when you're looking at someone. Maybe it's a way that you are seated in the body. For instance, if someone is having to charge forward and be heard, they have a tendency to be in this physiology. If someone is in apathy, they have a tendency to be doing this. Their body language will do this. At some point in the conversation, you'll get one of these, either coming out of you or coming out of them. And it's a sign that I'm actually rejecting my own magnificence. And I have to reject your magnificence if I'm rejecting my magnificence in order to keep us on some kind of even keel that the protective personality is constantly measuring and monitoring so that safety is a possibility. You follow? But if I'm accepting my magnificence, I'm going to encourage your magnificence out of you because I, too, want to be met as the essential self. So the question is, are you willing to be the one that leads? Because the moment is going to be there and you have a decision to make. Are you going to participate in the standoff? Or are you going to just melt and just say, you know what, let's try this. Let's try this. We haven't tried this before. Let's do this. We haven't done this before. And coming from the essential self, those suggestions are unifying. They're all inclusive. They come from a place of not wanting someone to be right and someone to be wrong. They're non-accusatory. They are allowing. They are patient. They are tender. And they are present. So just start to pay attention. But the big picture message in this moment is pay attention to what's going on in the body. Part of the primitive brain is the cerebellum. And the cerebellum does a lot of cool things. One of the things the cerebellum does is it determines for us, it gives us feedback where the body is in space, whether our eyes are open or closed. So if you closed your eyes and raised your arm up, you would know your arm was up because of something that's happening in the cerebellum. It's able to take those impulses, integrate them, and reference it based on past experience. So there's a lot of memory that is stored there. Subconscious memory is stored there. And including simple things like memorizing how to know where I am in space, it also stores how people tend to respond to me when I engage in these kinds of topics, how this individual tends to react to me when I behave a certain way. When I'm interested in this kind of a thing, this kind of thing normally comes as a byproduct of it. All that information is stored back there. And it dictates and drives how we behave. And what we want to do is use the cerebellum at a higher frequency level. We want to use it for something more that it's actually supposed to be being used for. And one of those things is in the realm of dictating or identifying where a body part is in space, it also identifies with, am I in the protective personality or am I operating in the essential self? So if everyone could just close your eyes for a moment. If you just close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you're in an argument with someone, that you're discussing something that's challenging for you, that's hard for you, and you have waited to say what you want to say, and you're afraid to say what you want to say, and I want you to envision yourself saying it. This time, I'm just going to pop it out of my mouth. I'm just going to hit myself on the back of the head so it pushes the words out the front of my face. Just get the words happening. Now, notice what's happening in your gearing up physiology. If you're gearing up to just go for this, to do it, okay? Now, in that same scenario, I want you to imagine that you rolled it out and you said what you had to say and there was some conflict and you spoke back and forth a few times. You were able to keep your cool. You were able to stay in your core. You were able to breathe up and down the central channel. You were able to stay in Mula Bandha, which allows you to open your heart and still know where you are in space. Okay? And you finally got to a place where what you had to say was well received. It was not only well received, it was beneficial. And maybe there were some tears shed, and maybe it was tender, and maybe it dropped into a deep, caring, intimate space where you knew that a trusted relationship had just been deepened. And you feel the victory and the celebration of that happening even now. And in that imagination, notice what is happening in your body. Notice if you sat down inside yourself. Notice if there was tension in the body that relieved itself, that released. Notice if inside the brain, the eyes are looking differently, even with them closed. One of the things that likely happens is a focusing of the eyes will shift, even with them closed. And as you begin to notice these kinds of shifts, you can cultivate patterns that you know work for you, even ahead of time, even before you're ever in a scenario, so that you could practice the pattern that's present in your body right now before you even engage in the conversation. So that in that moment, you can maintain that physiological pattern that draws from your true essential self, that streams energy through it, that is constantly supporting you in revealing more of you on this planet. It takes a lot of energy not to do that. What if you just stopped wasting that energy? So notice how you feel in the body with the eyes closed in this moment. In your victory physiology, notice if there's something that's more active, or you're more present, or you're seated someplace, or something's more open, or something is more strongly quickened on its own. And memorize it. And recognize this is part of my go-to. This is part of my go-to walking around in the world every day. Not just in challenging situations, but in all situations. I can walk around as this victorious one that took a chance and it worked out. If we memorize the pattern and we begin and initiate conversations from this place, conversations have a much better chance of vibrationally matching this possibility in those that we're speaking to and drawing it forward out of them. The essential self will be met. The essential self will be met, one way or the other. It'll either happen over the course of your life, many years, or it will happen because you're taking these practices into your own hands and working with them now, right? So I have no idea why we needed to share that little message, but here we have it, okay? Is it helpful? It's a good deal. Awesome. So have that, okay? So what we're doing in the Masterclass is asking a bunch of questions and weaving them together in an answer that aligns with basically this kind of conversation that we're having right now. Because everything is asking you to reveal your magnificence. No exceptions. Every single thing in your life. And if we could just like really make that real, what begins to happen is these serious, devastating circumstances become inspirational moments of possibility. We start to recognize it as something else. Like, oh, wow, wow. Instead of exploding or retreating, the two things that the protective personality does, I'm going to take it off of me and just be present with what is more real than what I was able to access looking through this filter, okay? So what we're going to do is ask some questions. Hopefully you guys have some questions, or I'm going to have to make some up because I don't have any from online. We didn't get any because we didn't know we were going to be doing this in this moment today. We got together because we have this amazing group of people that are holding an amazing space for this conversation here in this room and around the world. So welcome to the rest of who you are, right? Okay, let's see what we got.
Wondering if you can share with us what your thoughts about technology, how the use of the phone and the Facebook and being in constant use of them, how does it hinder or supports our work in terms of what you are?
Okay, so the external vibrational frequencies from cell phones and computers and so forth, how it might be affecting our subtle energy field, the flow of this energy through our system that we're working with, and so forth. Yes, is that?
Not only the vibrations,
yeah.
but the way we relate to
oh.
it.
Oh. Okay, the way we are connecting or not connecting with real people because we're connecting with people through little things like this. Oh, I love you so much too. Yeah, something kind of gets lost in that, right? Okay, all right. So what's the cell phone doing? God, how do you draw a cell phone these days? To the external environment, and what is it doing to us. Okay, got it. This is how my mind works, okay? Yes.
How do you actually surrender to those emotions when you're feeling it?
Okay, so you're feeling an emotion when we say, okay, surrender. What's that mean? Like, how do I surrender? I don't have a white flag. It's not working, right? Okay, how do I surrender? Okay, you don't have a white flag? We'll give you one. Okay, got that? All right. This will remind me what to talk about. What else? Anybody? Yes.
So what we're learning a lot is that any physical problem really isn't a physical problem. It's a manifestation of other stuff going on. So what are cataracts about?
Okay, physical problems. We're learning that physical problems are not actually physical problems. So what is the relationship between particular physical issues and the emotional or mental dispositions that accompany them? Okay, in particular cataracts, but there's a plethora, right? There's a long, long litany of things that are affected. So your eyelashes are a little prettier than that. So there we go. Okay, there we go. Yes.
Are there ways that you can do some things that will help you to be more in tune with what's happening in your body?
Okay, so how do we get, the question is, are there, what was the question? Are there things that we can do to become more attuned?
Right.
Yeah, it's called the energy codes, okay? You got it, baby. Yeah, so we live in our heads. We're reared in our heads, which is an interesting statement, isn't it? We're reared in our heads, right? We're reared in our heads. We'd be better to be reared in our rears. We'd be closer to being in our body. So I won't draw that one. Okay, so we are raised living in our heads. Our parents live in their heads, their parents lived in their heads. And it's not that we don't have loving moments. Living in the protective personality, we have loving moments, we have painful moments, we have victorious moments, we have glorious moments, we have moments where we feel connected to Source or to nature, to God, whatever, like we belong. It's all there for the protective personality. It's just a cheap version of what it could be. It's just an imitation of the deep, rich fullness of having those experiences from the essential self. They are conditional from the protective personality, and they are unconditional from the essential self. So if we've been raised living that way, then how do we begin to not live that way? So all of the practices in the energy codes are directed to take this big energy field that is around us, that is accentuated up above us. It's not just around us, an equal distribution into the earth as it is over our head because of the way we live. If our culture was different, that would be different. Because by design, it's designed to be symmetrical, evenly distributed between the upper body and the lower body. We're supposed to be, and it's so fascinating, this is me not answering the question yet, okay? All right. How do I stop myself? It's going, I have to finish, okay? There are children being born that you can put a photograph, like Danny, you from the back of the room, you could pull a photograph out of your wallet and you could set it on the floor, and there are children born alive and well on the planet today, 20 years old, and younger, that can put their foot on that photograph, blindfolded, put their foot on that photograph and tell you what's in the picture. That there are two people in the foreground, flowers off to the left, mountains in the background, and it could be a picture of anything that they've never seen. Now, that's freaky, right? That's pretty crazy. There is evidence everywhere that we are so using our faculties in such a primitive fashion that we are limiting our ability to perceive reality. And then we fight over whose misperception is more accurate. You follow? You're dealing with one, I'm dealing with one. We're each dealing with our own illusion, and we fight over whose illusion is right. And it's all illusion. That's the point. If you want to get to problem solving quickly, teach that principle to your friends, to your family, to the people in your lives. Just constantly be interested in how that can apply, because there is no right answer. Everyone's right. That's what quantum science is teaching us. It's fabulous. It's fantastic that we find what we're looking for. And then, unfortunately, because we find what we're looking for, it makes us creator. We fight over who created the right illusion. You follow? It's crazy, crazy fun if we start to recognize it for what it is and recognize how to step out of it. Rather than stepping into the argument, step up to the overarching reality that there is no right answer here. And the best we can do is explore the possibilities. You share your possibilities with me, I'll share my possibilities with you, and together we will be more because of that. If we do that in relationships, we're home free. If we can just find one relationship to practice that with, it is amazing, which is why we're so blessed to have this conscious community across the globe watching this program, exchanging with each other, and engaging. We're coming up with ways for you guys to engage with each other more in the months to come. I'm very thrilled about it. We're putting a lot of time and energy and effort into finding additional ways for people to be interconnected with other people in this community on a regular basis. And I'm thrilled about that. So maybe we'll get some time to chat about that. But so far, I'm not answering questions. I'm just taking questions. So anybody have another one? Yes.
It's been said that we're not so much afraid of failing, but succeeding. What are we afraid of? Why do we hold ourselves back with fear?
Awesome. So success and failure, they are both products of duality. Okay? So we'll get there. What else? Anyone?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to phrase this, but we have a movement going on now called Black Lives Matters, and it's sort of split our population, and I've been working with my group of people in my congregation, and they're primarily Caucasian, and a large number of these people have really, because we've had conversations, because we do seminars and we watch movies and talk about things, they're beginning to move, but there are still a number of people who are so reluctant to engage. It's a shame, blame, guilt kind of thing.
They're reluctant to. Okay, let me just keep everybody with us here. You're in a group with a focus group that is investigating Black Lives Matter, and you're in a group in your church, and most of the people in the group are Caucasian, and they're hesitant to engage in what?
In the conversation, I mean, there are large numbers of people now. Let's say the congregation is 350 people. We've had at least 180 people who participated in movies, in book studies, and whatever, learning about Black culture. Because what we discovered is that there's a tremendous lack of information.
Yeah.
But then there are other people who are kind of like sitting on the edge. They're kind of, standing in the back of the sanctuary looking but never approaching. And I just wonder, what it would take or how we can engage people in just the conversation.
Fabulous. So there is a real deep desire in all of us to belong. And when we develop specific focus groups, there is a real tendency for people to not feel like they belong. So in an attempt to bring conscious awareness to something, we can actually be isolating if we're not careful in the languaging that we use. I was just in a conversation with this last weekend about this same thing. And I also, a couple of weeks ago, before I get into this, does anybody else have a question? Because I'm going to go on a roll here. I can feel it. This is good. This is good stuff. Yeah.
This might apply to her question. Just looking at the political climate in the United States and how polarized it is there any thoughts on that? And I don't know if that can go with that or...
I would add to that the great amount of fear.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah, fear. Yeah.
Sweet. So, this is good. This is going to be good, guys. Okay? So, here's the deal.
See how she rolls.
Because we're here right now, let's start here. There is, as I said, everyone wants to belong. And when a certain group takes a stand in order to belong, and they start asking for belongingness, there is a real tendency for the pendulum, for everyone to feel like the pendulum is just swinging in some other opposite direction. And people get afraid. People just get more afraid because they're already afraid, right? So one of the things that I have found that is very helpful is to think about all lives mattering. If I can approach the conversation about all lives matter, okay? Asian lives matter, Black lives matter, gay lives matter, you follow? Caucasian lives matter. All of it is beneficial to everyone. Everyone can find a place inside of them that says yes to that statement, okay? And for those that have been privileged and have been in charge and have been making the rules and breaking the rules behind the scenes, but in charge, and aren't developed in the area of knowing about anyone outside of that world, for those people, any kind of rising or taking a stand, such as Black Lives Matter, is going to be intimidating to them. It's just going to be intimidating. So what I do is I speak into the common ground that we all come from, and that is that life is precious, that life matters, and that we celebrate bringing forward our cultures and celebrate the differences in all of them. Because if we're not celebrating those differences, then we're making a black and white reality out of a rainbow, out of the infinite amount of colors and variations of consciousness that exist. We're making a sepia tone. It's not even crispy black and white. It's just bleh, it's just not as colorful as it could be. And that is not appealing to the soulful self. So as this relates to the energy codes, my invitation is to talk about equal rights. And in certain situations, it might feel to you like you don't get to take as much of a stand for exactly what you want to say, but we may have to take this onion and peel it in layers. We may have to be in a manner that is inviting, that feels not intimidating to the people who we're trying to say this message to. So whoever it is in your mind's eye, in the group that you're in, the groups that we are in our mind's eye, who is it that you want to hear your message? And how would it be easiest for me to address this kind of a topic, this kind of a situation? And I assure you that coming to the conversation from a place of grand neutrality allows less intimidation on the part of, in the mind of, the individual that we're wanting to hear the message. That equal rights is something that everyone has closer access to. You follow what I'm saying? So one invitation there that I would put into this is to recognize that ultimately we are all one. And if I can speak about the oneness from the oneness, I'm going to get further faster than if I speak about the oneness from a place of separation, from a place of isolation. You follow? It's like the red going against the red, and they just don't work. And the green can go to the red and have a melding happen. Ultimately, what we want is the green to speak to the green in people. And the way that I find to cultivate that, to initiate that in conversation, is to talk about the equanimity of it all, what we share, what matters, that life matters, that all lives matter. And it's like mothers against drunk drivers. I have had patients that were mothers that were traveling and speaking against drunk driving. They were one of the advocates, one of the main spokespeople for MAD. And she was one of the most unhealthy patients that I had at the time. This was maybe 15 years ago. And it was because she was driven by anger. She was driven by making a point. She was in her red trying to fight against something. And you know the message, we can't fight against anything. And so the invitation is find ways in your groups to invite people into everyone contributing to what equanimity looks like and feels like and sounds like to them. What do equal rights look like to you? What do they look like to you? What do they look like to you? When we do that, people, I believe, will feel more likely to step in to dialogue and to exchange and to brainstorming and to heartstorming in a way that they might feel a little too separated if we start out with, gay pride or Black Lives Matter or any of the other circumstances that are so in the forefront of what's next for humanity. Our culture has to recognize that there is only one of us here. And if there is some part of me that I am not honoring, then it's about me, and I'm going to be in pain. And so the best thing I can say is to bring the grand neutrality of speaking about all of it. We can't march against war. Mother Teresa would never march against war, but she would march for peace every day. She was there every day, right? So it's the same kind of concept. We have to translate it into these circumstances. And speak about equanimity and the holy ground that we all walk upon equally. That would be my take on that. And this is about the political situation, and we'll just keep going here because there's a lot of other things to talk about. But I will say this about it: I think that it's so crazy. It has to get so crazy that we recognize that the old system is obsolete. And I believe that actually what is happening is the crashing of the old system. If not, it's taking a good solid blow, and it will never be the same. Even if it comes back with the stronghold, that stronghold will never be as strong as it was before. It's busting up because it was not right. It wasn't in equanimity and in harmony. It wasn't based in value and in peace. It was based in superiority and domination, and it was based in profitability at any cost, success at any cost, and deception, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, all right? So it's got to fall. It's going to fall. It can't not fall. So I believe that we are having the honor of walking through, living through, breathing through, witnessing, participating in the very crashing of something that no longer serves us anyway. So it's a beautiful thing. When it, yeah. When it falls, it's a great thing. When it's so crazy that even the devout party devotees are like, I don't think I can do that either, Wow. Yeah, now that's a good day. That's a good day. That's a good day because we're no longer blindly marking the ballot just out of devotion for the sake of devotion. And it wasn't even devotion. It's more like just simply being herded mindlessly and caught in the rapture of the emotion of winning. And it really hasn't been about these principles that we're talking about. So it's inevitable that we're headed here. We have to. Can't not. So we speak about that in terms of, right and wrong and good and bad and teetering and tottering. That's a little teeter-totter is what I was drawing there, a little seesaw. And we speak about that, and we speak about duality. That's about duality. It's about the crash of duality. That's what we're witnessing in the political system. We're witnessing the crash of duality. And it may take our entire lifetimes for it to figure out what we do need to do. What we know so far is what we don't need to do. Right? So we're moving our way toward the front side of the model because we were on the backside of the model with our political system. So we're edging, it's the same thing. All systems will migrate the same way your personal system is migrating in the course of your life. We're all moving, and then collectively as a group, consciousness, humanity's consciousness at large is evolving to the front side of the model while it's here on Earth. That's what we're doing. So everything, if you look back over the past decades, the systems that have fallen that were based in deception, the corporate systems, the priests molesting children, there's so much that it's been obvious, it's been evident. And these fallings, these collapses are because it's not based in truth. It can't survive. Nothing will. So also not based in truth and cannot survive is this idea of duality and our fear of success as equally important as our fear of failure. And the reason that, this is so cool, the reason that this is the protected personality out here and the essential self at the core of your being. The protected personality is that outer shell that we developed when we landed and we splatted and we dispersed and we had to figure out how to navigate the world. And when we started to figure out how to navigate the world, it was based in fear, because it's pretty freaky when you feel like you're only a part of a whole being and you're trying to outrun that sensation by stimulating yourself with all kinds of things, whether it's being addicted to emotions, whether it's being addicted to needing to know, whether it's, worse, being addicted to, really out of control, being addicted to drugs or alcohol or sex or what have you, all of the various things that we've come up with. But they're all based in imbalance. And so if we're operating out there, it might even just be addicted to needing to be accepted, addicted to being liked. They're the same. It's the same story. It's all one thing. It's just a spectrum. So if we're stuck out here in the Splatland, okay, if we're out here in Splatville, we develop a personality, the protective personality. The protective personality is running from failure, but it's not based in wholeness. So it's afraid of wholeness and of failing. Okay? It's like just freaked out all the time. Okay? It's like, you name it, it's freaked out about it. So you get some experience that causes a greater sensation of wholeness, and immediately you're freaked out of how long is it going to last. It's going to go away. We fall in love, and we're like all about it, and then the next thing that starts to happen, just as, a couple months into it, it's like, what am I going to do if they leave? Because I'm really opening up my heart. Now what am I going to do if they're gone? So then we start operating in a manner, conditionally, operating in a manner that will keep them here so that I can continue to feel this good. You follow? It's just duped. The protective personality is the one that is afraid of failure. And it is the protective personality that is afraid of success. And you are neither one of those. You are not afraid of failure. You are not afraid of success. You just have something stuck on your face. That's the only thing that's going on. The only thing that's really going on here is you just have something stuck on your face. That's the only thing that's happening. So we just have to get it off of our face. Because when we get that off of our face, we recognize, oh, man, I am success, and I am failure, and I am evolving, and I am here, and I am beautiful, and this is beautiful, and that's it. And there's nothing else that matters. The failure that I am when I'm sitting in the essential self is only the remnants of the protective personality. What I'm saying is, if I experience something that my protective personality used to call failure, when I'm sitting in the essential self, I look at it and it's like, yep, just not good at that. Do I care? Nope. Why? Because apparently there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. Because it wouldn't unfold this way if I was supposed to be doing that. I'm not supposed to be doing that. How do I know? Because I didn't get the job. They didn't hire me. Or because it was the failure. The failure is no such thing as a failure. Only the protective personality would see it that way. The essential self knows, okay, thanks, not that direction. Where are we headed? Oh, maybe it's over here. Yeah, I feel it right there. Yes. Tell me a little bit about this. That's how the essential self operates. Dig? So success and failure, they have equal opportunity to freak us out. Because if we're interested in them, we're standing in the protective personality to begin with. The essential self knows nothing but what is. It doesn't know this, how you say success. I don't speak English. It doesn't know about that. It doesn't know about that. It's just unfolding. I'm just minding my business, doing my thing, being me, being abundant, being fluid, being intimate, being available. You can call that success or you can call it failure. I don't know. I know it's Portuguese, right? I'm just doing my thing. That's what the essential self is in here saying. Meanwhile, having a great time, right? Well, this one's trying to figure it out. So how do we get about that? We have to surrender into the essential self. We have to surrender into the essential self. How do we do that? Well, it starts with noting the physiology that is associated with the emotional state as is. The question is, how do I surrender these emotions that I don't want to be feeling? First of all, I have to stop not wanting to feel them. Okay? Because I have to change what they mean to me. And if they are an answer for me, the last thing I want to do is say, no, go away. Go away. Right? You know the joke about the flood and the guy standing on the roof and the airplane or the boat, all that stuff. It's the same. The emotions are that. They are the boat and the helicopter and the, what else was it? It's a boat and a helicopter that came to rescue him. And he said, no, I'm waiting for God. And then he dies and goes to heaven and says, why didn't you? I sent you a boat and I sent you a helicopter, right? So I was there, right? We missed it. We missed it. So the point is, the emotional states that we are experiencing are here for us. They're the rescue. They're the helicopter. They are the boat. They are vibrational frequencies. That's all they are. So it's an emotion like upset, an emotion like fear. Those states are vibrational frequencies, and we learn this in the coursework as we go through, as we dig into the deep stuff, which we're going to do this weekend. So you're going to have this big answer. 3 more days of this answer. The solution is to recognize that all emotional states are just vibrational frequencies. And my job is to get in, let me see if I can do this. My job as the energy being, the spirit being, is to come all the way into the physical body. That's my job in this lifetime, okay? Certain vibrational frequencies catapult me in that direction, and if I deny them, I bounce back off, okay? So I'm feeling anger, and I don't want to feel the anger, I bounce back off. I never get to come in all the way because I said no to some of the vibrations. So there's a certain vibration here, another vibrational frequency here, another one here, another one here, another one here, another one here. I have to embrace them all in order to get to the next one. I have to embrace this one to get to this one. I have to embrace this one to get to this one and everything that comes with it. I have to embrace this one to get to this one, to get to this one, to get to this one, to land here. To actually come all the way here, I have to embrace everything I encounter along the way. Ha! Okay? Now that's only scary because we have a story written about some of that stuff. We have a story written about that sadness is bad. But you know what? The only reason that you think sadness is bad is because somebody told you that sadness was bad. That's the way it is. If you really break it down, what's so bad about sadness? What's so bad about it? Go into the body and feel what sadness feels like. It's actually trying to direct you. You know, if you just come down here a little bit, you can get in. You can get through those layers. You can sneak right in, right here. But because nobody told us that sadness had a magic key, or fear had another different magic key, or abandonment had another magic key, nobody told us that. So we think these things are bad and wrong, and we have to outrun them. And we build more of this protective personality. So how do we surrender to them? First of all, we have to recognize that I've been telling myself a story about them. That's what makes it hard to surrender. Because I think if I accept sadness, I'm going to stay there for the rest of my life. You're going to stay there if you don't accept it. Yeah. It's the opposite of what we would think. Accepting it is the only way that it will ever dissolve and that you can ever open through it, get it to dissolve and soften enough that you can get through it. You've got to throw a little love on it. So how do we do that? Well, the body makes it easier. The mind can't do it on its own. If it could, it would have. If the mind could have done it on its own, this never would have shown up in the first place. It never would have established. The mind can't do it on its own because it doesn't have the vibrational wherewithal to do it. But if we couple it with the body, the mind and the body and the breath, now we're onto something. Now we have a totally different vibrational recipe, and we can not only get in, we can stay in. Right? So, because what we're getting into is the real us. And so staying there is easy because it's who I actually am. It's not something I'm holding on to. It's like, it's me. I can't get rid of me. I'm here. I'm still here. And actually, you'll always be here. Good news, bad news. Okay? Eternal being, right? So the energy codes is showing us how to do this by taking it to the body. We have to learn how to feel in the body what the body is trying to reveal to the mind. Okay? We have to learn to feel in the body what the body is trying to reveal to the mind, because the body is constantly trying to tell the mind, hey, all you have to do is come right over here. You know, you can kick and scream right over there, or you can just walk right over here, and I'll take you by the hand, and I'll walk you right into this place you're trying to get. Whatever, okay? Right? So however you want to go about it. You can bounce against it, you can make it dramatic, you can make it traumatic, you can feel it in the friction, or you can just come right over here and let me slip you right into where you're trying to go. And it's just that simple. So we, by mula bandhaing and doing the coursework, the central channel, and coming in to where the body is directing us in a given moment, it allows us to see, sense, and feel where we're supposed to, what vibrations we're supposed to be embracing next. It walks us by the hand right through the process. So surrender doesn't really feel like surrender. It just feels like take it to the body. The surrender happens as a byproduct because I become more interested in turning this situation into a project than keeping it a problem. I'd rather turn it into a project than defend against the problem, fight against the problem. You know, one last thing on that is that we have a tendency to come to know who we are through resistance. And so we resist these. We resist solving problems. We resist it because as long as we have the problem, we know who we are. It's crazy. We're crazy. Crazy. We are. We are insane. We are crazy. Right? So let's just play with our craziness instead of suffer from our craziness, right? Right? Because we're here to clear up the distortion. We're living in a distorted system, and we're here to clean up the distortion. So all of these things that we've been trying to avoid, start embracing them. Take them on as a project. Take them on as a project. They are the answer. They are the answer. All the stuff you've been outrunning, all the stuff you're aware of, and when you get that cleared up, you'll become aware of all the stuff you weren't even aware of. There just keeps coming, okay? But the good news is it gets easier and easier and easier and easier and easier. One of the most important things that we can do is recognize that when we are in this protective personality and we're in this duplicity and we're not looking at life in an equanimity kind of way, in harmony, what happens is the body starts to take the brunt of not getting enough of this. Chris, you have to keep me posted on time. I didn't see what time we started. We'll get one of the things that will happen is we don't receive all of this when we start putting up this. This blocks the rest of me from landing in the body, in the physical life. It blocks it, okay? So when it's blocked, the body suffers. Not only does the mind suffer and the emotional body suffers, the physical body suffers. So it suffers in proportion to the kinds of interferences that these are made of, okay? So for instance, there's a blockage in the energy field, and then the person steps off the curb and breaks their ankle. The blockage occurred in the energy field before, and it had to do with a grounding, rooting issue. It had to do with not accepting my magnificence. It had to do with not believing this is my gig. It had to do with me not proceeding as though I have what it takes. Of course, this is in support of me. Of course, the world's going to love this and like that. And if this person doesn't love me, it's just because they're not awake yet. And I'm going to wake them up a little bit. I'm going to keep trying to wake them up until I get tired of doing that. And then I'll just go play with somebody who gets it. You follow? You follow? All right? So the whole idea is that we lean in with consciousness, that we lean in with awareness, and that we lean in with heart. And one of the amazing things that makes that challenging to do is that we are disconnecting from each other in so many ways. We had the question about the technology and what do we do about the technology and it's causing the separation and the lack of intimacy. It's very interesting. The technology is stopping one kind of intimacy, and it's also enhancing another kind of intimacy. You know, I know people in relationships that can't talk across the dinner table about something that is serious and that their relationship desperately needs to address, but they can text each other about it. They can send an email to each other about it because their thoughts come together and they can put it forward in a manner that they lose, they disperse, they splat when they're in the midst of real-time, real conversation. It's too much energy. They can't handle the vibration. It's too much input for the protective personality. So we have to build the circuits to move to the essential self. In the meantime, what we're doing by building the circuits that will move us to the essential self, it also builds the circuitry to allow vulnerability, to allow open, engaging conversation. So while one thing is coming out of the picture temporarily, another thing is coming into the picture. And I would love if in the meantime we share this information with as many people as we can meet and we can know and talk to them about circuit building so that they don't miss the benefit of having to text instead of talk. Follow? Because there could be a benefit. If when they're texting and are able to get it out, if they took one eye on the inside and took it to the body and could see what was relieved because they were texting, they would squeeze and do the work in that state, and then next week or next month or next year, at some point in time, they will be able to have the circuitry in place enough that in real time they can speak right into the situation instead of having to retreat and go and do. So at first I was resistant, but you know what? We can't resist anything. There is benefit happening in every advance, even when it looks like it's causing another problem. There is always a benefit or it wouldn't be happening. And part of it might be that it's inspiring us to take a stand and to speak into the fact that we're killing our environment. And at the same time, how we go about speaking into that is going to make all of the difference in the world if we're actually going to change the tendency to need to do things that ruin the environment. If we step into it from the essential self and from a place of love, then we have a much greater chance of making a difference. It might be strong love, it might be firm love, but it has to be based in love. We can't lose sight of that no matter how revved up we get about the various issues, the many issues that we could get revved up about, right? So while it's disconnecting us, it's also connecting us in other ways. So we now have more expressiveness. We have emojis, right? Right? Now we can put pictures with the words, so we can get a little bit of a clue about what did you mean when you said that, right? Because of the little facial expression. And think of it like this. Our culture is going back, and we are picking up with baby steps how to communicate, how to communicate, how to communicate. And technology in general is giving us the opportunity to do that. It's also giving us the opportunity to question whether or not we are mature enough to handle things like the internet. Is there responsible stewardship? Is it credible? There's so much, but again, it's just like our political system. It has to get so crazy that it wakes us up and we say, no more. We have to handle this a little differently. We have to handle this from a place of wholeness. And so as we're trying to make our differences and trying to see how it can show up differently in the world, just keep in mind that the essential self is based in wholeness. I have to approach this from a place of equanimity and an invitation. Never telling, but inviting people into an exploration of something. I never tell. I'm always inviting. You hear me say thousands of times, if you've been listening and talking and engaging in this conversation very long, I will say, the invitation is this. Here's the invitation. Here's the invitation. And what I'm doing is sharing from this place of infinite grand neutrality how we can find unity in the face of duality. That's our point. That's our purpose. So when the various parts of the body flail and fail because we have blockages up on this energy field and we're not coming into the body with our wholeness, we might end up with a heart condition because of certain kinds of withholds. We might come in and develop a colon problem because of different kinds of withholds. We may have an immune system issue because of different kinds of withholds. Lung issues because of a different kind of withhold. Cataracts as a different kind of withhold. So in particular, because the question was about cataracts, what is this? It is about being in the body. It is about being willing to see the magnificence in everything, starting with what is behind the eyes. What is behind the eyes is the real me. Am I willing to see the real me with my protective personality that I have been engaging in and engaging as most of my life? Is it willing to see my goodness? Is it willing to accept a greater portion of my beauty? Is it willing to never question, but to just be present with what is, and to trust and to know that everything that is flowing through all of us is here for one purpose, and that is unity. It is here for us to find the common ground, because quantum science is showing us there is only one of us here, and it is you. And so, the parts of you that are mad at some other part that looks like someone else, or that is disgusted with a group of people who are a bigger part of you back in the shadow that looks like it's someone else, is really the parts of you trying to come into contact with these other parts of you, and the friction that is happening there is actually the invitation for a birthing, a melding. It's the vibration that happens right before the egg hatches, right before something new births. That's what is occurring when we come up against these issues that we want to take a stand against. The answer is to take a stand for. And when we are firstly taking a stand for the deep, beautiful truth within, and trusting and knowing and allowing that to reveal, and we are living wholly and fully and consistently in this body and enlivening these tissues so that the whole of my being can come online, that my belongingness can meet up with my wisdom, and that can meet up with my personal power and my esteem, and that can meet up with my ability to love unconditionally, consistently, unwaveringly in all circumstances, as we've been speaking about here this evening, and that can meet up with my ability to hear the truth and to speak the truth, all part of the throat chakra. And that can meet up with my ability and create a foundation so unwavering that I have enough oomph to pierce up above my primitive brain and those memories caught in the cerebellum and access my alpha thinking creatorship so that I can bring the multiple dimensions of myself here to this plane. Because to master the physical dimension, we have to master the non-physical dimension. We have to acclimate ourselves with the non-physical version of ourselves, because everything in the physical body, everything in our physical lives is an outpicturing of how we're doing at that job. It's about putting the pieces together. And that's what the Masterclass is about. And I think we did a pretty good job. Yes? Sweet. Awesome. Yay! Ha 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 ha. See, now they're rowdy. Awesome. So, if you have witnessed the Masterclass for the first time, maybe you'll join us in the Gold membership and plug into that on a regular basis. Those of you that are regularly in the Masterclass, my blessings to you. It is, well, my blessings to all of you, but it is such a great joy to share this information with all of you so consistently and have you be holding this vibration around the world. It is a blessing beyond anything that I really ever imagined would happen in my life. And I'm so thrilled about that, working with putting these materials down in a very user-friendly, organized fashion so that we will have a reference book, a manual to go back and forth with to learn how and when and where to apply and implement these ideas. So hopefully that'll be rolling out here in the next year in a fashion that will serve you or maybe some people that you know and love. So many blessings to you guys. Thank you for holding this amazing space. And